Colin.
Precedence is part of our British justice system.
Sure.
You do look back at what happened and what was put right then. So there's nothing wrong in looking back at the past, as Frank has done, quite rightly.
Sure.
And as he said, all those fights were allowed to go. What really upset me on Sunday morning, I've spent nearly 50 years covering this sport, and I've always been saying it's a force for good. Young men are taught discipline. They're taught to fight the good fight, and at the end of it, hug, kiss, do what you like, and that discipline went out of the window, whoever's fault it was, and I'm afraid it made me and a lot of my colleagues who promote boxing in a different way to Frank look foolish.
Okay, Scott,
it embarrassed me.
Okay, so to close up this part of it, to get rid of all the bad stuff, what happens to the two? What do you think, or what do you want to happen to the two of them? You come second here, so let's you go, Colin.
When Tyson chewed off Holyfield's ear,
yep.
He was fined $3 million
yep.
and banned for a year.
Yep.
I think the pair of them, well, we can't ban Haye because he hasn't got a licence.
But let's assume he has got a licence. Let's assume he has.
Yeah, no. Chisora should have a hefty fine and a lengthy ban. Barry McGuigan said on a radio station I was on this morning he should get banned for 6 months, which is nonsense because he wouldn't fight for 6 months anyway.
So a year or longer?
It should be at least a year, if not longer. He's got to be hurt where it will hurt him most, in the pocket.
Okay, Frank, what do you think should happen?
Well, first of all,
if you don't want to prejudice your case.
No, that's it. First of all, as far as the slapping is concerned, the WBC have already ordered that $50,000 be deducted from his purse, pending a hearing. And then once they have the hearing, they'll determine whether they're going to fine him $50,000 or if they, whatever they're going to do about it. And then obviously there'll be representations made. So you can't charge him twice for the same thing, in my opinion. It's WBC's title. They will deal with whatever they got to do there. With regarding the rest of it, I believe, and I always have been led to believe, that there is a system for people to actually go before, whether it be a court, a tribunal, whatever, that you give your side of the story before people start saying what should happen, and look at the evidence that's there. At the moment, as far as I understand, the German police have done that and released him without charge, and I believe that the Boxing Board of Control will have a hearing and they will review that evidence and obviously take statements and so forth, and then whatever they decide will be their decision. It'll be up to Derek if they decide to ban him, whether he appeals that and goes through a process or not. But you go through the process. It's like saying, hang him now.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but that's what everybody's doing. He
should be punished.
Well, whether he should be punished or not, we've seen RTL and the Italian. There's other footage, and there's been a lot of photographs. And you look at some of those photographs, obviously they will all be presented, and it'll be up to the Board of Control to determine what was what. It was unacceptable. I'm not saying for 1 minute anybody should get off lightly or without punishment, but at the end of the day, like everything, you go through the process, and the process then determines what will happen.
Okay, response each, Colin.
Well, a lot of my journalist colleagues, including a man who was a table tennis player, I understand, are saying that boxing is in complete decline, and some even saying the whole of boxing should be banned, which is as moronic as the behaviour of the two men. I mean, it's, do you ban football because of what Eric Cantona does?
Or do you ban football because of Keenan Vieira? Of course you do. Exactly. And does it reflect on other footballers what two people do in a moment of madness?
99.9% of boxers throughout the world behave impeccably before, during and after the fight.
Correct.
Boxing, they say, is in the gutter. Boxing isn't in the gutter. Those two men are in the gutter.
Yep. And now, what we'll do now, because we've had a bit of a barney there, let's talk about what happened once the bell sounded until the bell finished, okay? Because I've got to be honest with you, I was getting texts from people inside there saying, this is brilliant, this is fantastic, this is the best we've seen of Klitschko. Frank, what was your take on the fight? You must have been getting excited by about round 5 or 6.
As I said from the beginning, a lot of people saying he was going to go 6, 8 rounds as soon as Klitschko. I knew that Derek was fit. I said that before the fight. After the Alanius fight, he stayed in training because I felt I could make the fight. He did that. He got himself in some fabulous condition. And for me, the fight was all about making Klitschko work. The work rate, he's 40 years of age, making this guy work every minute of the round, pressing up on him. As I said to Derek and said, my view of it was that, if you can get under these guys' jabs and their long shots, both the Klitschkos, they don't fight too well inside. Most people allow them to dictate the pace of the fight and how the fight's going to be. And that's what Derek did. He was lacking in experience. I mean, you know, the other, Vitali's, what's he now? He's had 45, 48 fights.
Yeah, at least. And
Derek's had 17 fights, which is relatively a novice compared with him. But he did make him work every round. The scoring I thought was ridiculous. I thought, you know, Klitschko won it by about 4 or 5 rounds, in my opinion. And Derek was so up for it. Even in the last round he was taking the fight, he won the last round.
And Colin, were you surprised at how good a performance he put up?
Well,
and how long it went?
Richard Maynard, Frank's press chief, phoned me on Friday and said, "Will I make a prediction?" And I said, "Well," he said, "can you see Chisora winning?" I said, "No way." I said, I think he might be stopped in the later rounds, but it wouldn't surprise me if he took him the distance because of Klitschko's age. Anything can happen when a man is 40. So, and I said his speed might cause Klitschko a lot of problems, which it did.
I wonder what the odds were on Derek winning the final round of a 12-round decision, even though he didn't get it on all scorecards.
I mean, I didn't have a bet on it.
I wouldn't know what the odds were.
Later. Yeah, but no, the fact is, you know, he fought him better. He gave him the hardest fight he's had since Lennox Lewis. And I know he's talking about the 40. These guys are in like Bernard Hopkins. They're in fabulous condition. You know, and as I say, they normally beat guys. A lot of guys are beat before they go in the ring. Derek, whether he's a bad guy, whatever you want to say about him, has self-belief in his ability. And it's a great shame what's happened. And it is a great shame because, you know, I really think, you know, another sort of 5, 6, maybe 7 fights under his belt, he could wind up becoming a world champion.
I say, Klitschko's won't last forever. No. So say in 2 years they're both gone off the scene and Chisora's being allowed to continue his career, he'll be in the mix. And
finally, Frank, thanks very much, Colin and Frank. Finally, Frank, Haye against Chisora. You talked about it on the podium. You talked about it at the press conference. Still, people are talking about it. If let's assume they don't get bans, let's assume they don't get bans. Let's assume they get fines, and let's assume you've already talked to you're already talking to Chisora. Obviously, let's assume you can go for Adam Booth, talk to Haye. Is that a fight that you would make, even allowing for what happened in Germany?
Well, you know, as I said this morning, it's not one that I would do. But I'll tell you something. You know, that fight, if somebody announced that now, whether it's a year's time, whatever it may be, is a stadium fight, rightly or wrongly, whatever you want to say. But I'll tell you what, people will show up, will go out for it. And on all these guys who've come out and said they should be banned and not go, they'll all be sitting there reporting on it. You know, that's what happened. They talk about, you know, about me as a promoter, what I would do. I'm coming out and saying I wouldn't promote the fight. But I'll tell you what, if that is made, that fight, they will all be to a man at ringside.
Colin, finally.
If that fight is allowed to happen by the authorities, I'll be very surprised if this promoter here, the biggest in Europe, isn't bidding for that fight. And I can say, you know, we're not naive. We know what's happened. We've really slammed the both of them. If that fight was announced tonight, Frank was to say those two men are going to fight in 18 months' time, whatever stadium you like, all the tickets will be gone by midday tomorrow.
Frank, thanks very much for coming in. Colin, thanks very much for coming in.